What makes you happy?
Just lay down and look the sky. That's it.
Why are you doing this?
Okay, this is how the detectors looks like.
Is it normal that I don't see any? What has Russian culture taught you?
To eat the soup before the food.
Теперь можно Джимми включать.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
До свидания.
До свидания.
Nothing is impossible, not if you can imagine it. That's what being a scientist is all about.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to podcast 42. We talk about life, the universe, and everything. Today, we are embarking on a journey that begins where ancient traditions meet cutting-edge science. All the way from India, a country, a land that has gifted the world not only centuries of wisdom, but brilliant minds. We welcome today Marimuthu Natarajan, a researcher at the BECQUEREL Experiment at the Wechsler and Baldwin Laboratory of High Energy Physics.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for nice introduction about India and also about me. It's very happy to join with you, your podcast, Anna.
I was absolutely surprised and kind of a little shocked when you just say yes at the very first moment when I asked you, when I invited you to our interview. It was so cool. I really like easygoing people like you are.
I too.
Is everybody in India these kind of people?
Not everyone. Initially, I too have the same problem. I cannot say yes to everyone. So I think a lot have some hesitation to speak, how I can accept the things. So slowly when start growing, so I understand to take opportunities to explore it. And you can show your talent and you can use the opportunities.
So you're kind of a person who catches the opportunities, right?
Yes.
What other opportunities do you have around?
So first time, even PhD is also opportunity for me. So because initially a PhD is not my journey, so I want to be some other uniform services. So I want to serve.
Uniform services?
Means I want to serve my country like army. So initially I planned for that. So after that, due to some reasons, because I'm not that much height, so they rejected me.
Really?
Yes. Actually I need 170 centimeter, but I'm 169. 1 centimeter. So they just rejected me. So after that, I'm doing my postgraduate. So during my time, my professors told me that there is a research. You can, if you are interested, you can take the opportunity. So then at that time I think whether I want to take this opportunity or not. I think a lot. Then I accepted. Though once I came to the research, then and I take all the opportunities to utilize my life.
How do you make that decision? I mean, when you have the opportunity, when you see it, and when you think, so shall I do this or not? So what is your decision usually based on?
The thing is, first I will think, surely I can do, but I think anyway, everyone cannot make it perfect, but I can make it. So I can take the opportunity. I cannot make it perfect. I can do it.
So it's your motto, I suppose.
Yes.
So do it anyways.
Yes.
This is so cool. Great. And how do you remember the moment when you decide to move to Russia?
Actually, I first time came Russia in 2018. So that time I never think I will come to Russia. So during my PhD, and I saw the many articles from the Soviet Journal of Nuclear Physics. Then I discussed with my seniors. So one of my seniors participated this AOSS conference in the JINR with full funded. Even they are given all the facilities, hospitalities.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for a little? Senior, it's a...
my PhD senior, actually.
Is this your supervisor?
Not supervisor. So those who are doing PhD before me, there is a lot of students.
So it's kind of your friend?
Yeah, you can call us a friend or colleague.
Okay.
So she participated here. So then I came to know the JINRs there. Then she told me you can also apply, and I just applied. And I got opportunity to come JINR and presented my work. So when I visited the lab in that time, all the labs they show me. I'm really astonished that what great facilities here. So then I went back to India. Then I studied more about JINR. So how much they are serving country and how much they are doing in the science. They studied a lot of things. Then I fixed that I want to join in the JINR. So I looked at each and every lab and looking my same field. Then I find my supervisor, Pavel Jaruban, P.I. Jaruban. Then I mailed him. So I'm eagerly waiting for 2-3 days whether he will reply or not. So finally he replied me. So he ready to accept me as a researcher in his group. So I'm so happy. During the time I'm writing my thesis. So I was fasted my thesis to writing because I want to complete. I want to go to Russia.
So you really wanted to do,
Yes.
to do that.
So even I work every day and try to complete thesis faster. So finally I submitted my thesis. Then again I mailed to my supervisor here. Then he told me you must awarded PhD. Then only you can join here. So again I waited for 6 months because for thesis evaluation and the viva voice. So I need to wait for 8 months. So finally degree is awarded. Everything goes well. So I send my certificate to my supervisor. He is very happy. And after sometime the pandemic came, so everything collapsed.
So I understand that this event was really something that you were looking forward to, right?
Yes, I'm really looking for it.
For how much time did you wait?
3 years.
3 years.
Supposed to I have joined in 2019.
And you never changed your mind?
No.
Never. Was there anything that you were scared of before going? And what about the winters? You told me there's...
Winter, that's why I came spring.
Just to prepare yourself, yeah.
My supervisor told, so when winter will come, so he will come and look at me. So whether he properly wear the jackets and the shoes and everything he will take care like son. So it's like a nice family, like my group. So they are very good. So after 1 year, he finally said, you have survived.
You survived. Yay! Welcome to Russia.
Yes.
Did your family support you in your decision?
Yes. That time I told my family, even before I told, after completed my PhD, I'm going to Russia. I clearly said. But that time they didn't take seriously. But after that, when I informed them I'm going there. They said, okay, you can go.
And nobody told you, where are you going?
Nobody.
It's far, far away. Please stay at home. Nobody?
They said, but anyway, I will come back. They know that.
Maybe they thought that.
Yeah. They know that I will come back. Wherever I will go, I will come back to my family.
Do you keep in touch with your friends?
Yes. Every day.
Every day? Really?
Yeah, they will call me and ask how it's there. Even they are ready. They are also ready to come.
So they are coming.
They plan.
For winter.
No, not, of course not a winter.
Make it
come.
fun. Come in winter.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, please, what do you do at your experiment? I need to remind you that I am a 0 level.
Okay.
So please explain.
Okay.
I am absolutely sure that there are people who also do not understand, but they would love to.
Okay.
So I will ask you questions, like I'm a first grader.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, I will try to explain as much as simply. So I'm working in the BECQUEREL experiment. So the BECQUEREL experiment to investigate the light stable nuclei and the radioactive nuclei through the relativistic fragmentation. I can say simply that there is a clock. So you are smashing on the wall and try to figure out the pieces and try to understand how it was built.
Okay.
So similarly, we will break the nucleus and try to understand how these elements is formed in the universe.
So the next question would be, why? What for? Why are you doing this?
Because we try to understand that how this carbon and other light stable nucleus is formed in the universe. Because you think that without carbon, life would not exist in the world. Even carbon would not exist because of this complex, strange nuclear structure. So if there is no carbon is formed in that time, so we are not existed. So we want to know that how this carbon is formed.
Okay.
So that it's explained by the Freight Hoyle in the British astronomer. But still, the structure is not fully explained. The bandwidth is not properly explained. So then only we can understand the human life, how it's evolved, all the living things. So it's more important. And moreover, if you look at the nucleus, inside the all the nucleons are not freely moving. So what they sometimes make like a groups. So when they are decaying like alpha particles. So understanding this group is more important. Through that we can understand the nucleus, how they will behave.
All right.
Okay, how they will break, and how it's formed in the universe.
All right.
So we can understand it. So it's more important how these elements are formed in the universe, why we are existed here.
And after you understand, what's next? What's the next step? So you got that information. What's next? So what are you doing with it?
So I'm quite surprised how it's formed. So I'm curious to know how this evolved. Why this all the if you look like two alpha particles combine and make a beryllium, and beryllium combined with alpha particle and make a carbon nucleus. And again, why the carbon nucleus make a alpha particle, make all the oxygen? Why the chain is stopped somewhere? So why after that human life is evolved here?
So what I meant is, what is it for? To put in a publications or like in a student's book or?
Yes, for that we are for these studies we are using the nuclear track emulsion detectors. So the nuclear track emulsion detectors, you can see how the fragments are formed in the inside these detectors. Look the microscopes. So when students will come, they will look directly how the nucleus is breaking and the different fragments. So after that, we will analyze each fragment, how it's formed, and then we will go for the publication.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Yeah, so we will study for each fragments. Then we will teach the students like a start program, and students will come and they will give some work, and we will show that how this detector will work, and you can look the fragments and try to identify like a protons and helium and the different type of elements. You try to identify yourself. So students are very happy to do themselves.
How do you catch the process? I mean, of that separation, if I can call it, so the break of the nuclei. So how do you catch that? Is it something like a picture or?
Yes, I have the pictures and
video.
I can show the detectors if you.
Please.
Okay, this is how the detectors looks like. So the glass plate on the emulsion. So you can see that pasted on the emulsion plate. So once it's like a composition of the targets.
Is it normal that I don't see it?
Yeah, I can see.
Still.
Yeah, I can give you.
So what shall I see?
Yeah.
I see some letters.
Yes, its letters mention that which beam is exposed on in this plate. But you can see only the detectors in the top.
Oh, this one.
So in the glass plate.
And there are some spots.
Yeah, some spots where the events are forming inside. So when you look in the microscope, you can clearly see the events. So how the fragments are formed inside and try to identify it. Then we can go for the analysis how this nucleus is breaking apart, how they will behave. Sometimes if you look like a carbon, they can go for decay directly to the 3 alpha particles. Sometimes they can go for the sequential decay.
All right. And what does it depend on?
It's depend upon this energy and its process. Sometimes these alpha particles are manipulate themselves when they are decaying. So it's very important to understand that one.
What do you do with this?
Yeah, once I will prepare this emulsions. So we will go for the beam exposure. So in the horizontal way. So then if you see the beams, you can see all the tracks. I can so give the pictures so you can see one by one. So if you go to the plates, what happen after sometimes any beam, so it will go split into the different fragments. The biggest problem in the electronics detectors, it cannot be do it with the electronics experiments.
All right.
Okay, because the beam itself would split into the fragments. It's the biggest drawback of the electronic experiment. So we can study with this one. So that's the most advantages in this one. So you can study each one, then you can go to the further analysis.
All right. So is it like each one at a time?
Yeah, it's
or you can just analyze several.
Yeah,
once?
you can do only one at a time. So each one, like if I analyze xenon, so if my friend will analyze krypton and another one will analyze the beryllium, so each one analyze the different beams. So everyone study different projectiles. And
How much time does it take to study
It's
one piece?
if you find more number of events, it's depend upon how many number of events are formed.
Oh, approximately.
Approximately, it will
from
take
to-
6 to 7 months. It will take. It's
6 or 7 months.
Yes. So we don't want to miss any
I thought like
important information.
A week?
Not a
Maybe.
week. No, not a week.
No? Really?
Yeah, and this we have to do as a manual, and we to try to find it. So that's very important. So we have 3 different microscope for this MBA microscope. Another one is KSM, and we also have the advanced microscope like Olympus BX63 microscope. So one more also we are installing. So with each microscope we can do it and as much as faster.
Well, the students who come to your group for some kind of internships, what do they usually do?
First they will come and we will teach the basic things what we are doing and why we are doing. That's also very important. So and we will show the basic things. So lab, and first day I will me or my supervisor pick him and show everything. The next day we will give this plate and try to understand it. And we'll give some articles to read. If you have any doubt, you can contact us. So we will explain. Then we will give this plate to them and start work. And we will teach them how to work, so how to find the grade numbers and try to write yourself and try to find the events and try to mention what you see in this one and try to draw yourself. So what you are seeing in the microscope. Sometimes students will confuse with the particles and grid numbers. So they will do one by one practice. It will take 2-3 weeks to learn it.
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, they will learn.
And when a student comes just for 3 weeks in total?
So we can give the basic information. That's
right.
because
Okay.
it will take more time. Sometimes that's why when students will come, they will work in the MBA microscope. So they don't have a time for the KSM microscope. So if they are doing faster, so students are very curious to know, go further and further. We will teach them KSM microscope. And also if everything goes good, sometimes we'll give the automatic microscope so they can learn faster. It's depend upon the students, how they are learning.
All right. Do you give them a chance to, do you give them options? What would you like to learn during this?
Yeah, we will. He come to the lab and I will show each and everything, so he can choose. But we will teach the basics first. That's very important. So without basics, if you are going to another one, it's very difficult to work. So first we need to learn the basics. Then if you want to work, we will teach them. So that's it.
Do you enjoy working with students?
Absolutely. I'm very happy working with the students. It's my great opportunity to interact with the different country students like Iran, South Africa, and Egypt. I'm very happy.
Well, I mean, I'm asking because some people, they don't like teaching.
Students are very good, and I can learn from something from the students. So students
Like
also learn a lot
what?
of things from the students.
What do you learn from students?
How to be more patient.
We have several student programs.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you like the most?
I like the START program students because I can interact student directly. So I can work with them. So I like the START program.
And they stay for longer.
Yeah, longer. It's like a friends. So we can work together.
How many students have you had so far?
2, 3. Up to now, I remember 5 students.
5 students.
Yes.
From how many countries?
Egypt, one Iran, and South Africa. What else? Yeah, that's 3.
3.
Yes.
What did you know about Russia when you were a kid?
That's a good question. So when I was a kid, I know that when we study about in the history, so and geography, so they will say that biggest land in the world. They will say some people write USSR, some people say Russia. I think there is a 2 or 1.
So you were confused.
Yes, I'm confused. Then I started growing. Then I understand. Okay, then both are same. So after that, I will study about when we launched our first satellite in India, so Aryabhatta. So when I studied about this, then I studied how they launched this. That time, this was launched by the Russia in that time. So these are the basic things I know. So when it's after that started growing, so I studied more about the Russia. So how Russia has played the vital role in India space exploration.
You were very curious.
Yes.
As a kid.
That time. Yeah, after that, I will study it. So these are the basic things that time I know. And when you study about the science, so obviously you cannot avoid the Russia. You can see the first artificial satellites and all the science achievements. You will must take the Russia in that time. So like I studied one by one.
Have you seen other cities in Russia?
I went to Alusta in...
It's in the south?
No. What is...
Alushta.
Alusta, yes. We visited there for the last conference. It looks like India. We like it a lot.
Oh,
It
really?
looks like India. It's like a Goa.
Right, because it's in the south?
Yeah. It's very good.
So what was so similar?
Its climate is almost similar and
I don't think they have 50 plus.
But that time it's good. We simply you can wear the jacket, you
It
can
was
go
just
out.
warm.
Yeah, we went the summer.
Ah, right.
So we enjoyed a lot and we can go to the beach and take bath and take rest. And it's like a small shops outside. Even you go to buy some shops. My wife went to buy some dress. They directly told me that it's from India. So why you came to buy here?
Next time you go to India, you can buy something which is from India as a souvenir to your friends.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the conference. What conference was there?
It's like young scientist and specialist conference in every year they will conduct in the AYSS. So that's a very good conference. So through the conference,
Did you participate?
I participated two times.
2 times.
Because of that conference, I came to the JINR. I have an opportunity to come. Because in these conferences, they supported me a lot. Because even they are giving me the flight tickets and hospitality. And even they picked me from the airport and dropped me back to the airport. Everything is good. It's completely take care of the JINR. So I am very happy that's a great hospitality. Then I'm very happy, okay, I want to join
Yeah,
here.
we don't smile, but we are very hospitable.
But
We keep it inside, so nobody knows until they come to Russia.
Okay.
Okay, fire round. The thing you cannot do without in Russia.
Really, I need that thing. I need like a
You
Indian.
cannot do without it.
I like Indian chai.
What?
Indian chai.
Indian chai. Indian chai. Indian chai. Why?
I like it.
To feel like at home. What does a typical Russian day look like?
Typical day in the January with the winter and staying in the home. Continuously in the home and look outside the window.
It's exactly like in India, but only with rain.
Yes, but the different. In the India, there is rain outside. You can stay outside and look at the rain. But in here, you cannot look from outside. So you need to stay inside the room like a bird and look outside how it is. That's both are different.
Okay. Your biggest scientific dream?
My biggest scientific dream, I want to understand how the carbon structure, how this abundance carbon formed.
What you are working on,
Yeah,
right?
I'm working on that one. I'm so curious about that. I want to learn more about this. Why
But
we exist.
in the end, maybe to get a prize for that, Nobel Prize.
That's my
Nobel
grief.
Prize.
It's very good. It's a great opportunity.
But it's not the biggest.
Rather than the prize, we will satisfy ourselves. We done something. So prize is second, and then first thing, okay, we done some better work. So we learn a lot.
So you want to feel that satisfaction, if I can say that. Yeah. Like I did it. Your scientific idol?
My difficult idol from India or in Russia? Anywhere.
Scientific idol.
Scientific idol is APJ Abdul Kalam. Abdul Kalam
Tell
is
me
Indian
more.
scientist. So Indian scientist is a missile man. So his simplicity and he developed the nuclear weapon in India, but he worked for the peace. So he's a very simple man. So I like him, APJ Abdul Kalam.
What makes you happy?
Looking the sky long time. I can look the sky as much as I like it a lot. Just lay down and look the sky. That's it.
Great. I would love to do this right now. Your biggest fear?
Height. I don't
Height?
want to stay in any scales or height anywhere. I don't like it. I don't want to do any adventures like this.
Imagine tomorrow you come to work and your supervisor tells you, now we have detectors there. You're like, no. Would you quit?
Not quite, because I talked to my supervisor. He said in earlier time, so to use this photographic emulsion, people will go to the mountain. They will place this emulsion plate. For that, they need to learn the mountain climbing. So he said everyone learned the mountain climbing in that time. I thought, okay, I'm very happy I joined now.
What has Russian culture taught you?
Means Russian culture taught me to eat the soup before the food. I like soup. So they taught me first you drink the soup, then you will enjoy the food.
If you don't eat the soup, you will not get anything.
No, not like that. But I like that culture because I like soup.
A Russian word everybody should know.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
Yeah, здравствуйте. And they teach me some basic words like до свидания.
До свидания. Здравствуйте, до свидания. Yeah, that's enough.
That's it. Sometimes they will correct. You cannot say like здравствуйте. I try to speak, but it's not coming.
It's not
So I will change it like my modulation.
You can bring a plate with the word здравствуйте.
Yes.
And the last one. What is your motto?
Change is permanent.
Thank you. We have a question from a previous guest to you. Well, if you had to choose ultimately, you either do science, or you get 5 million rubles, dollars, whatever, monthly. What field of science would you choose?
I do science. I choose astrophysics. So I will choose yes.
That's not what you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's related to that, how the elements are formed in the stellar nucleus synthesis.
Well, yeah.
So I try to understand more. So I will choose that one.
Really?
Yes, really. Why?
$5 million dollars.
So that we can learn. After 5 million, 10
You will
years.
get more. You will get more. You will get more with science.
Yes.
That's your motto. I know you brought something. I would love to taste that.
Okay.
It looks so cute. I noticed. I don't know the name.
Okay.
But anything that is sweet.
Any sweets? Okay, that's good. What else I can ask?
Will you give me the sweets to try?
Yeah, I can.
Можем, да? Записать, как мы вкусняшки едим или нельзя?
Можно.
Можно? Или после всего?
Не, ну почему? Пишите, конечно.
Хозяин разрешил поесть вкусняшки.
Мукбанг будет.
So this is like rava laddu.
Рава ладу?
Rava laddu. There is a lot of laddus option.
Сейчас я вся измажусь, короче, и буду грязная.
Yeah, you enjoy.
Do I do it correctly?
Yeah, yes. Hope you like it.
I love it. Did your wife make it? Or you?
Your wife.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you for
Thank
this
you so
amazing
much. Thank you
conversation.
much inviting me for the podcast.
I forgot about the most important question I wanted to ask is that would you like your kids live in Russia?
Yes, I'm very happy my kids are living in Russia. And also I'm very happy to announce that my wife is pregnant. Soon we are going to have a baby.
No. Жена беременна, кто не понял. Все похлопали. Теперь можно Джимми включать. Джимми, Джимми, Джимми. Где же? Thank you everybody for joining us today and follow us on every social media. Podcast 42. Stay tuned.